Sure. So the key trigger was really around a life event that changed everything. As you know, I got divorced, and that changes all your financials, but it also means that you make big decisions by yourself. And so there were a couple of driving factors. One was getting advice for that big change. One was around, I guess, a sounding board and having a bit of confidence that the decisions you're making are not, bad decisions. I mean, maybe there's no bad or good, but they're the best decisions you can make with what you've got. And I think having that comfort in that sounding board was so important. So I think at that time, everything in your life has changed after a long period where you've been a team, and I guess the next step has seemed quite obvious. So I felt fragile, vulnerable, exhausted, overwhelmed. But underlying all of that was also this sense of, I've really got to take the reins here, and I've got to make decisions short term, but also long term. And that was really important, that sense of I need to get all my ducks sort of lined up on the wall so that I can start to rebuild to go forward. Sure. So I think for me, it was less around seeking out technical expertise and more around, like, choosing the advisor was more around sort of personality and traits and match. The things that were most important to me, one was empathy, because I was so fragile. One was honesty. I think when you're going through a divorce, not everyone around you is as honest, particularly when they're delivering what might be confronting news. So I think having someone that you trust, that is honest, but also empathetic. And I imagine that's a really hard balance to achieve, but one that I certainly felt with Sherlock Wealth. So it was embarrassing because, as you said, technically I felt like I should have been on top of it, and in a way I thought I was on top of it. And I think when you go through a divorce and everything is laid bare, I suddenly found through my conversations with a variety of people, whether that's your solicitor and you're going through your balance sheet, or with Andrew, that there was stuff I didn't know. And that was pretty confronting, actually. I think the really good thing around my meetings with Andrew was just going through it step by step. As you know, I think Andrew has a very calming, reassuring ambience about him, and therefore creates that kind of trusted advisor, that safe space. I didn't feel with that necessarily with other conversations I had, where I was also having to front up and say, I just don't know. And as you know, one of the things I say to women that are going through divorce is everyone has things they don't know. I really believe that. I think it's probably true of men as well, actually. But it's just all laid bare. So for me, the journey's been less around understanding the technical competency behind how you, behind, I guess, your investment allocations, right? That's sort of my background. What have I learned? The most important lesson I've learned has been how important having a plan is. And that sounds so obvious, but I think that's been really drilled into me. And I feel like it's a little bit like having a personal trainer. So you can go to the gym and you kind of know what you have to do to be fit, but when you have a personal trainer, it makes you, turn up every day. It makes you work really, really hard and encourages you to make better decisions. So I sort of think about it the same way. And I think that my confidence to make decisions has improved. So that's been a big change, just that confidence to go, yes, I want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. I'm getting better at following my budget. So that is still, work in progress, could be improved, but it's going pretty well. The other thing that's been so enriching and valuable to me has been the whole of affairs approach that Sherlock Wealth brings. So connecting me in on my tax affairs, more recently on my estate planning, because all those things are connected, but to have to work with a financial advisor that brings all that together and makes sure that all of those boxes are ticked has been really, really valuable. Mm-hmm. I tell them it's really tough and it's okay to feel that. And I'd also like to tell them that, you can create a future for yourself that is really purposeful and rich and happy and loving and financially secure. But at the end of the day, that falls on you. And part of doing that is taking ownership and responsibility for your financial decisions, whether that's your superannuation, whether that's your insurance, whether that's budget or anything else that you do. At the end of the day, once you're divorced, all of that falls on you. So I think you need to think about what sort of life you want to build, and then you have to go out and do it. And part of engaging with a financial planner is that first step of just do it, because actually suddenly they put all these forms in front of you and you're signing things and you're getting your affairs in order, and then it starts to build. And that's what I've found. I think if I was talking to Sherlock Wealth as a starting point now, I'd be in a much worse position than had I made the decisions I made a few years ago, even though that was off a much, a smaller base. Mm-hmm. Sure. So I think the key message is you have to prioritize it as an important part of your life. No one likes admin. But inherently it comes with admin. I think though, too many people just float along and, I'll do that next week. I'll put an investment portfolio together next week, and next week just never comes. So you have to make a conscious decision to say, I'm going to have a financial plan. And that needs to include a savings plan, an investment plan, a leverage plan, a retirement plan. And the earlier you do that, the better you're going to be. The laws of compound interest kind of tell you that, right? So make those decisions. I think for women in particular, often there's a sense of my partner has that covered. And I get that. I've been a working mother. I understand it. We're busy, right? We're busy people. I think it's okay to split who does what. And even to some extent, maybe to split who decides what you're going to do, but never ever walk away from knowing what strategy you're following, knowing what those objectives are, and having a light finger on the pulse. You don't have to pay the bills, you don't have to pull the trigger on changing your investment, but understand what you're doing and understand why you're doing it. Mm-hmm. Sure. So for me, capital protection upfront was really, really important. My divorce attorney says you get one bite of the cherry. You get a certain amount of money and then you're on your own. So for me, buying a home and owning that outright has right up front been a really important part of my strategy. You can argue whether it's good financial strategy, but just on my own, it's a real kind of safety capital protection thing. Mm-hmm. As you know, the first work I did with Sherlock Wealth was actually around my insurance, and the financial planning piece came a little bit later. Mm-hmm. Partly because, as you said, I was so overwhelmed, I could only focus on a few things at any given time. But insurance for me was really, really front and center. I'm the mother of 2 daughters. I live in a city with no family to help me. So to know that I was going to be protected and my children were going to be looked after if something really bad happened was incredibly important, and helped me sleep at night knowing that was there. And it's expensive. Look, no sugarcoating that, but the thought that something could happen to me and therefore I couldn't help my children or look after my children was heartbreaking. Mm-hmm.